Hey, and welcome back to the Glowing Mama Method podcast, where we discuss healthy and sustainable weight loss for women over 40. And today we have Jenn Pike here with us. Welcome.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So, for anyone who doesn't know you, can you just give us a brief background around what you do and how you do it?
Yeah, so I've been doing this for a very long time. It is, I got started off in the fitness industry. I grew up in a household where my dad started taking me to a gym environment with him at a really young age. And so I registered this company at 17 and I'm going to be 46. So I've been doing this for almost 30 years. I started off at 17 teaching group exercise classes. And then I went to school and came out as a medical exercise specialist. I did post rehab. I ended up working with athletes for a pretty long period of time, mainly hockey players, which I loved. And it was so much fun. But I was also a part-time personal trainer where I grew up in Newmarket, Ontario, and I was working mainly with women.
Okay.
And when I was working with those women, I really started to realize that there were a lot of missing links happening in their health. So the workouts were helping them to achieve certain goals, but they were still fatigued. They were suffering from hair loss. They didn't have that same energy and desire and libido. And I was in my early 20s at this time. I didn't have kids yet. But I remember vividly thinking to myself, working with the athletes is fun, but they have an entire village around them supporting them. There's systems created for them, there's structure, and there's a lot on the line. They're going to do what they need to do. These women that I was working with, and especially the moms, they were lucky if they could get in 2 to 3 times a week and just like carve out the tiniest bit of time for themselves on top of raising their family, working, trying to be a good partner, taking care of the house. And I started to become more excited about creating impact with those clients that I was like, those guys are going to be fine without me. Like there's a dime a dozen in the industry that can go and help them. But I was like, there's something in me that is really feeling called to work with these women. And then when I became a mother, I was like, oh, this is why I'm supposed to be here. It's that thing where you don't know until you know. And unless you've had a lived experience, you can see it through the lens of like logically empathy. But when you actually go through it, that's when you start to really understand, there's not really a book that can tell us how to move through our life as women and as mothers and take care of our health. And so I continued to go back to school. Like in 2000, I went back and I was like, I'll become a holistic nutritionist because what I learned about dietetics in school was not functional. It was very basic and it was not taking the individual into account. It was very system oriented. And I was like, every system is different. So I can't follow this cookie cutter approach for my clients because none of them are the same. And then I just continued to chip away. And about 17, 18 years ago now is where I really started to dive into women's health and hormones. And that's where I've built my business and my clinical practice and all my programs around is helping to educate women on what they should have known about their bodies from a very young age. Like we should have been taught prior to getting our periods what was going to happen during those first few years of our periods, what to expect, what's normal, if something is dysregulated, how do we support that? Because the birth control pill is not the thing. And then in our 20s, our deep fertility years, our 30s, and then what happens when we have a baby, we're postpartum, we're moving towards perimenopause and menopause. And so this is really where I've anchored myself in my career for the last 17, 18 years. And I love it. There are no boring days when you work with women. And yeah, here we are today.
That's beautiful. I love the whole there's just so much divinity in like the way that things unfold over time. So what would you say was like the biggest thing when you became a mom that was like something that you learned that you didn't know before, that you didn't, was it just a lived experience, or were there certain things that you experienced personally where you were like, okay, I get it now?
There was two really specific things. One with my daughter who I had first, and then one with my son who I had 2 years later. When I had my daughter, I had this idea that she was just going to fit into my life and I could just strap her in a sling. And she came into the world and was like, joke's on you, lady, because I'm just going to cry and scream all the time. And I'm not going to give you any clues as to what I need or why I'm mad. And you're just going to have to figure it out. And I was rocked. Like I wanted to have 6 kids. I was always the babysitter. I'm obsessed with babies. I can sniff them out and I'm like, give them to me. I'm coming back in my next lifetime as just a professional baby holder. And so when I had my daughter, I was like, why can't I figure this out? And I've always been that person where I'm like, I got this, I got this, I got this. I didn't have it. And
Mm.
it was so mentally and emotionally becoming a mom rocked me in ways that my brain wasn't functioning the same way. I couldn't show up, and I identified myself as being ambitious and achiever and like, I got this. And I couldn't do that for the first 8, 9 months. After that, it got much easier, but it was the ultimate surrender experiment. And then when I was going back and working with my clients, and women would share with me when they were under a lot of stress, they weren't sleeping, they were just overwhelmed. I was like, frig, I understand what that feels like now because
Mm.
I'm also overwhelmed. And it didn't matter if they weren't overwhelmed about a new infant. I just understood what being a woman and a mother and being fatigued and overwhelmed and feeling like you don't have full agency anymore felt like. And it changed the way that I interacted with my clients. I stopped, hearing her and I started to listen to her.
Mm.
It's a big difference. And then when I had my son, like I taught fitness classes all the way through until I literally gave birth. And when I had my son, I was like 8 months postpartum and I went to my osteopath and I was like, I just feel like nothing has come back down from where it is supposed to be. I was like, I feel like everything is up in my rib cage. I can't, I'm trying to teach yoga. I can't do twists the same way. And he got on there and he was like, yeah, like the fundus, the top of the uterus is very rigid and everything is still sitting up. It's like you've been holding your breath for 8 months. And I was like, yeah, kind of. I have 2 kids under 2
Yeah.
and I'm still running a business. And so that for me was another thing of this whole 6 week postpartum, you get exercise clearance, you can just bounce back. I was like, what a load of BS. And I knew this logically because as a medical exercise specialist, I was helping rehab people's hips, knees, ankles, shoulders. And those rehab programs were like 12 weeks before we let them get back to
Wow.
doing. And so I'm like, we've just grown a human. We birthed the human. There's major physical trauma that happens to the body, and we're just throwing women back out without properly assessing them. So giving birth for me, like there's nothing it didn't change.
And so the rigidity at the top of the uterus, is that, would you say that because there are a lot of women who postpartum, they're holding on to what looks like a lot of weight in that upper abdomen.
Yeah.
Would you say that that is a main contributor to that?
Well, it wasn't so much that it was upper. The sensation I had was upper. It was more so just below the navel, the umbilicus. And this is where and I also discovered years later that I had pretty significant diastases recti. And mine was below the navel, not above. And, it wasn't wide, but it was deep. And so what I see for a lot of women who say I have this kind of mom pooch is what they'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time that there is some scar tissue that is there. So especially if they've had a C-section, even just the action of holding another body in your body for that long, they don't know how to breathe properly. And that tissue in my case was so rigid, it was painful when my osteopath first started to do a lot of the fascial work and releasing. I started to incorporate using a tool called the Gorgeous Ball, which Jill Miller created from the Yoga Tune-Up series. And I started to do daily abdominal massage. And that was a game changer. And so that, my son is now going to be 17. So that was almost 18 years ago when I started doing that. And I teach it in all of my classes now. And so even for women I work with who have constipation, they hold all their stress in their gut. And they're just bound up like this. We incorporate that ball and that fascial work and starting to let some of that tension go. So long-winded answer, yes. And there's just these very inexpensive tools that women can be using can make a massive difference.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of women who don't know or don't seek the help that they need early on. And they can be years or even decades postpartum and still have that tightness in the scar tissue. And like you said, I think, part of it is physiological, and then part of it is likely mental emotional too, right?
100%. Like there's no biomechanical change that happens in the body without the nervous system being involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like you think of what it's like to be a mother at any point in time, even when they're not little and as they're older.
Mm-hmm.
Your heart lives outside of your body. You are no longer one person thinking about yourself. In fact, as a woman, you're the last person you think of. You're outsourcing every resource that you have to your children, to your family, to your career, to your community, wherever it is. And we end up in a depleted state. And women can understand that if we talk about depletion through like vitamins, minerals, your hormones, energy. But we don't understand that the physicality of your body, your muscles, tendons, ligaments, joints, all of that, they also hold that tension. They feel that fatigue. And as women, what we do is we just do one of two things. We go, well, I'm going to go harder. I'm just going to push harder. Or they hands off the wheel and are like, they do nothing. And so it's like, how do we bridge that? How do you get to this place in between where you're not crushing yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but you're nourishing yourself, you're honoring yourself, you're understanding that our bodies are meant to move, that like it is part of what we are here for.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is one of the things that really prompted me to get you on this podcast. When I see the way that you approach exercise for women, it's so refreshing to see, because I have a lot of women coming to me who are like, I've tried everything and nothing's working, and they're super high strung and they're trying to access weight loss through pushing harder. And then when it doesn't work, they double down and push harder, or as you said, maybe they give up altogether. So I really love that I'm seeing more of like, listen, exercise is necessary, but there is an appropriate way to do that, especially for mothers, especially as we're going through like any hormonal rite of passage, right?
There is. And it's like, we have to, I mean, again, I've been teaching for so long, and I look back to things that I was teaching in my late teens and my 20s, and like psycho classes, like classes were called like Survivor, right? And like it was all boot camp style. It was high intensity. It was a lot of cardio. It was like itty bitty little weights. And, you know, even in the gyms I was working at, there was a women's section that was all lighter weights, you know, pink and purple machines. And then there was like the men's side of the gym. And when I bring women into the methodology that I teach, which is in my studio synced, we have to literally rehab the way women approach moving their body. So if you are a very ambitious woman, you know, maybe you were an athlete in the past, your history was being part of the generation that was brainwashed into calories in, calories out, burn more than you consume, cardio has to be cardio, and like everything you do has to be intense. And then you transformed that into always doing something like CrossFit, Orange Theory, you know, F45, which all of those are like, and here's the thing I want to say, all of those are fantastic movements. They're all great. The issue is if you are kind of abusing the methodology, meaning that's what you do 5-6 days of the week. And you have this belief that unless you have the imprint of your body and sweat on the floor, you didn't do enough. If you didn't close all the loops on your watch or on your wearable, you didn't do enough. Mm-hmm. And so it is, but at the same time, those women who are pushing so hard, they're coming to us and our programs and practice and saying, I am puffy, I am inflamed, I am tired, it's not working anymore, I'm gaining weight, I'm not losing weight, like I just feel, and they do what you said, they double down. I guess I'm not going hard enough. And you know, maybe I need to do that class and go for a run. I need to do that class and go put myself in a caloric deficit. And so it's very tricky as a woman right now, because online is beautiful. It's how we've connected. It's why we're here. At the same time, you're being yelled at every day from all different influencers and experts and being told, this is the way, this is the way. None of that is being directed to the individual, because there's not one way for everyone. But what I can tell you in working with so many women who have very similar personalities, backgrounds, goals, they're going through similar hormonal shifts and changes, is that your body at this time of your life is asking you to actually do less better. It is asking you to, like, when you're going to move your body for 30 to 45 minutes, be in your body, not on your phone, not multitasking, not just like quickly trying to get through it like you're checking it off some to-do list. Like, you are present and you are embodying your body and what it is that you are doing. You are embracing what it means to, not for it to always be hard, but it is going to be uncomfortable. When we're building muscle, when we're lifting weights, when we're doing something new, it is uncomfortable, but it's not hard. And I think that this is the reframe is like, I see hard all the time in my practice. Hard is managing an autoimmune illness. Hard is when your body gets to a point where you're like, I got nothing in the tank. Hard is it's what happens when we don't take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so meeting your body where it's at any point, and like inside of Synced, we have kind of two ways you can use it. Some women who are still have a regular period and they're in flow. I'm a huge fan of doing a cyclical approach to your training. And you will hear people online be like, that's not evidence-based research. But I'm like, can you please sit down? Number one, if you don't have a uterus, do not talk to me about what is appropriate for a woman's body. Number two, how about instead of looking for the evidence-based research, we start to get the data from real women in front of us. If I have a woman I ask and say, do you feel the exact same every single day of the week, every single day of the month? I don't know a woman who says yes. It depends. Like on my period, not so much. Like the week after my period, I actually feel good. My energy's great. Ovulation's kind of hit or miss. Some months it's awesome and I am like raring to go. And other times I just want a hot water bottle and to chill out. And then that week or so before my period, like it's a bit of a struggle. I'm hungrier, but I'm not as motivated to move my body. And so we teach women how to choose what type of movement and intensity based on how you're feeling. If you're in perimenopause like I am, and your periods can kind of be on or off like 2 to 5 days over the course of the month, how do you listen to your body? How do you know if this is a day to lift heavier and to push versus a day where maybe it's Pilates you're doing or it's yoga, you're going for a walk? And so there's so much more that we can be embracing as women. There's no one rule for all.
Yeah. So how would you help someone kind of figure out what's best for them if their cycle is kind of all over the place? Is it just a matter of listening to your body or?
Well, kind of two different ways. If it's somebody who really loves regiment, they love a structure, then what we teach them to do is actually follow the cycle that is always in alignment, which is the moon. And so we teach them how to tap into the lunar cycle. So like we're recording this August 7th. We are coming into a full moon on the 9th. Every moon phase actually represents a different element of the internal infradian rhythm, which is your cycle as a woman, regardless of how young or old you are. And so the new moon, which is the beginning of a moon phase, this is the same as our menstrual cycle.
Mm-hmm.
It is the pullback energy. It is where the body is doing deep work. New moon energy is very much about, you may not have the same kind of energy you do on other days. And so maybe that's the day that you're doing your yoga class, you're going for a walk, you're going for a swim, you're doing something where you're still moving your body, but you're not crushing your body. You're not like, this is the day I'm going to go and PR something. And then when you come out of that new moon phase and now you're going into the waxing, this is like your follicular. You've shed the lining of the uterus, you're regenerating that organ, hormones are coming back online, cognitive function is feeling sharper, your energy is there, you're feeling good. And now you're like, now I want to go do something more challenging. I want to go do, my group fitness class. I want to go lift heavy and get under the dumbbells and the barbell and doing that. And then as we come into the full moon, which is like ovulatory energy, it's big and it's robust. Our pheromones are on point at this time. Like it's a very attraction magnetic period of time in your body. In women who are like, yes, I resonate with that. This is the time where they're going to want to spice things up. So this is where they may do some interval-based training. They may add some sprints in. It's going to feel really good because it's going to be a match for where they're at energy-wise. The woman that is crampy and has tender breast and ovulation does not feel good for her, then she's going to pull it back and really ask, how do I want to move today? Do I want to walk under that full moon? Do I want to have an Epsom salt bath? Do I want my legs up the wall? What is it that I really, really want? And then as you come on the other side of the full moon, now we're in the longest moon phase, which is the waning gibbous. And this is when the full moon and its big brilliance is starting to get smaller. We start to see the crescent in the sky, and then it goes to the new moon. This is the luteal phase. It's the longest phase in a woman's body. It's the time between when you've ovulated, you've had the most robust secretion of progesterone in your body. And then as you're getting closer to when you're going to bleed, if you're not pregnant, those hormones are going to lower. That signals the shedding of the uterus. And most women, the week after ovulation, they're still feeling, pretty good. 99.9% of women, though, the 5 to 7 days before they're going to start to bleed, they're not feeling so awesome. And this is when it can get tricky to give the guidance of listening to your body, because you don't actually know what it's asking you. And so, when we're teaching women about this, it's like intuitively what feels good. How about you start to work out and do your thing? And do you need to lift lighter? Do you need to do fewer sets? Do you need to maybe do more or less reps? But don't not do anything. And so I talk about exercise in different ways. To me, like, walking is movement. That's not a workout. I want you to move every day. And walking is therapy. It's how you get outside. It is like, to me, it's just, it's the best. It's nature's medicine. Exercise is where we are creating some level of load, resistance, or something progressively challenging on the body. And so, yeah, it's tuning in, and really trusting. And that can be hard for a lot of women. And you will hear people that say, like, don't listen to your body because it's lying to you. I do not believe that. I don't think it's your body that's lying to you. I think that when you ask someone, if you were to listen to your body, what would she say? And women say things like, lie on the ground, like, I'm tired. That's a different response. And so I'm not going to recommend for that woman who is feeling a little burned out and stretched. I'm not going to recommend for her to just push through it, but I am going to recommend for her to move her body, but in a way where she can connect and come out of it and be like, I am so glad I chose to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that we also overthink it. It seems like it's this big mountain, whereas like exercise is, I feel like people are utilizing exercise as a tool to access weight loss. But what I think a lot of women are missing is, like, even if you get out and lift, like, do 2 exercises alternated for 10 minutes, your mood's going to improve. Your energy is going to improve. Your sleep will probably be better that night. Your bowels might move better tomorrow. And like those, I feel like we're in a society of like instant gratification too, right?
Totally.
So
and women just won't stick with it long enough, right? Yes. It's like, if I'm not seeing the results right away, and it's like, consistency is your currency when you're trying to create any change in your body. And the reality is that as you start to get into your 40s and your 50s and definitely into your 60s, your body doesn't respond with the same speed and the same way that it used to. You have many different things happening behind the scenes that are impacting that. It's not only about declining ovarian hormones, at your estrogen and progesterone. You also have a new way that your body is regulating your insulin, your leptin, how your adrenals are managing the production of DHEA and cortisol. Your sleep probably isn't as good as what it used to be. There's a lot of different things that are happening that impact the body's ability to lose weight, to lose fat, because losing weight and losing fat are not the same thing, and to building muscle. And so for a woman in her 40s and beyond, you have to stop jumping around from program to program to approach, and you've got to anchor yourself in. You have to, the thing that you used to be able to do for a week and drop 5 pounds, you need months now. You need months now. And women don't want to hear that. So they'll go and do things like overfast, combine it with a deficit, water fast when they want to drop quick weight, cut their carbohydrates. They do all these drastic things that every single time you go and you do that, especially if it's not something that you are doing in a phased approach, or you know what you're doing, you lower your body's internal thermostat, you lower your basal metabolic rate. So now your body is only going to manage X amount of calories at that level. And so when you go and eat more than what you normally would, or you know, fall off the wagon, whatever you want to call it, you are going to feel the inflammation, the water retention, the weight gain. And so it really, any woman who's listening, who's in that perimenopause to menopause window, this is your time to take in fewer recommendations and to do less better. So really hone in on your nutrition. This is not the time to be in a perpetual deficit. And I get it, because right now, and here's the thing, if we look at the literature and we talk about this through an evidence-based lens, all the data will say that in order to lose fat, you must be in a caloric deficit. Okay. That is true. But what's also true is that you have to first understand and study your own personal habits. Most women are living in a deficit every single day, and they're not losing weight. So that approach is not working for them. Why is that? Well, there's no consistency. Majority of people, even if they track things like their macros of a food journal, they grossly underestimate what it is that they are eating. Because if they're not measuring that food, or they're not weighing it out in some capacity, you're guesstimating. And as a woman, you're always going to underestimate. You're never going to overestimate. The pendulum can swing the other way, where you might be overeating. You know, we have a lot of women who come into some of our programs that we teach and we run, and they consume so much fat because they have the keto mentality in their mind, not realizing that if you're consuming 100 grams of fat a day, that's 900 calories coming in just from fat. Mm-hmm. And if you're struggling to lose weight, when you go into perimenopause and menopause, higher fat for most women won't be the best approach, because stomach acid has decreased, which is going to make it more challenging to break down. Mm-hmm. The liver and the gallbladder health have to be on point to properly, like the liver has to be strong enough to produce enough bile. That gallbladder has to hold it, squirt it out when you're eating to be able to properly break down the fats. We run stool tests all the time. And the level of steatocrit, which is a marker in the stool for undigested fat in the stool in women, it's so high all the time. And it's because fat is delicious and it's satiating. And if we're cutting carbs, we're going to look to replace it with fat. And again, if we're talking about women in their 30s, we can pull a whole bunch of different strings and get things to work. But when you get into 40s and beyond, the playground changes and the rules change.
Yeah, I think that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. Like, yeah, what once worked doesn't work anymore. Yeah. But I also think that, you know, as we talked about exercise being something that is cyclical and we need to listen to our bodies and what it needs throughout the month, I think that a lot of women need to realize that we also need different things at different times of the month, food wise, right? There might be times that you can go lower carb in your month and times where your body is going to require more carbs. So what are your thoughts on that around food and working in a cyclical nature?
Yeah, so that would be like our bodies tend to be more insulin sensitive, doing a better job with insulin and glucose management in the first half of the cycle. So coming through when the period is ending and in that follicular phase. So that's when women can tend to do a little bit better with a little refeed, a little bump up of carbohydrates. It's also for someone who's going to fast, they tend to do better at that period of time. Coming into that luteal phase, I don't recommend for women to be reducing and cutting. And so it depends, like if someone says to me, coming into my period, I want all the salt and all the sweet and the sugar. I'm like, so what I'm hearing is you need more minerals and probably more protein and fiber. And so that also supports digestion in that period of time, because so many women will say like, I'm constipated before my period starts or the first couple days, just irregular bowels. So making sure you're getting enough protein, you're getting enough fiber, and that fiber is going to come through carbohydrate sources. But, even adding in things like getting in a couple tablespoons of good quality ground flax can make a world of a difference for a woman's bowels. And again, we're not eating the same way every single day. And this is what can be hard is people like routine, right? So you could be like, this is my breakfast every day. Doesn't matter what's going on in my body. This is my lunch. This is dinner. It's really being prepared. And I said something a little bit ago that is like, study your own personal habits. And this is why I love getting women to track for 5 to 7 days everything that they eat or drink and how they move and how their sleep is. The most potent data you have is not from something that's outside of you, like a different study that you weren't part of. The information and the data that your own body is giving you. So for instance, if I were to have you, Steph, go and track, and when I had an initial consult with you, you're like, no, like I eat pretty good. I like I'm doing a really good job of getting in my protein and all this and that. And then we have you track for 5 to 7 days. And what I see is you're getting about 90 grams of protein a day and, like 100 grams of carbohydrates, and you're getting in like 90 grams of fat. That's not going to be enough, number one, or in the right ratios. If you're saying to me, you have a goal of shifting your body's composition, you want to build muscle, you want to lose some fat, you want to drop some inches. It's a very difficult thing to get women to feel safe enough to eat enough. Most women are pre-programmed that you have to be between 12 and 1500 calories. And that's under eating, unless you are 5 feet tall and 95 pounds and you're itty bitty, which you wouldn't have those goals of losing weight anyways. That's not enough. And so it's also understanding, like I'm 5'10". I am working out often. I'm consuming 2000 plus calories every single day. And I don't gain weight doing that. I'm building muscle. And I'm using myself as an example, but I also work with women who are like, I'm running a program right now called Ignite, and it's an 8-week transformation. And the whole thing of this is teaching these women the value of the food you are putting in your body as an energy source and as a catalyst to shift your body and your health. And in the beginning, when we brought them up to maintenance calories, so many of them were like, this is way too much food. And we're talking like 17 to 1800 calories a day. Okay. Like you need minimum 1200 just for regular endocrine function, not including any workouts, the marathon you run as a mother, everything going on in your nervous system, all the things you have to manage. And so many of them in the first couple of weeks, it was such a struggle. And by week 3, they're like, do we get more food soon? And I'm lifting heavier. I'm not as sore from my workouts. I am sleeping better. I think I'm actually nicer. Like my mood is better. My hair has stopped falling out the same way that it was. Like these are the things we don't think about if our whole focus is weight loss, smaller pant size, be littler. We're not thinking about what is this doing to your thyroid? What is this doing to your body's ability to generate new cells? So the quality of your nails, your skin, your hair. What is this doing to your actual menstrual cycle if you're still bleeding? If you're not eating enough, could that be why you have the hot flashes and the night sweats? Is that why you're waking up between 1 and 4 in the morning and you cannot get back to sleep? Is that why you don't have the motivation that you used to start new things or complete what you've initiated? Is that why you don't have a strong libido anymore? Is that why you're constantly chasing low blood sugar? Like, oh my God, I've got to eat now or else. Is that why you're always looking for another cup of coffee in the afternoon or a piece of chocolate? Like all those things I just said, people will say things like, I'm not disciplined enough. Like I don't have the willpower. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but that is BS. Those don't come down to discipline and willpower. What they come down to is a decision, and the decision has to start with, let's be really honest about where you are right now and what you're doing. And then be really honest with me about your goals. Because if your goal is weight loss, there's always something under that. Like I say to women, okay, what if we can't get off all the weight that you desire to get off, but I can get you sleeping again and we can stop your hair loss, and your anxiety will be more stable, and you won't have constant cravings, and you'll poop every single day, and your joints won't hurt as much. If it meant that you still carried a little bit of extra weight, but we started to move to those things, would that be worth it to you? Women will say all the time, it's not working. And I'm like, let's back this up a sec. Is it not working because the scale's not moving? Or is it not working because nothing positive has changed? Because if all those other things that I just said are starting to come into place, you are winning. You are winning. We just haven't done it long enough for the weight to start to move. And the trouble for women is if they don't see it in the first 10 to 14 days, they're out. They're out. And you got to be careful because marketing online will prey on that and try to promise you things or offer you something that's very drastic. Very drastic. And here's the thing is like, yes, you might lose weight in the beginning, but to me, if you're doing something in your 40s and 50s and 60s that is not sustainable, buyer beware.
Absolutely. Because, and that's, I think, I mean, you can probably relate. People will come to you and be like, I've tried, I've lost, and then I gained back more. And then I lost again and I gained back more. And they're trying to apply the same tactics to get to the result. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love what you said about like the other pieces, right? Like, yeah, my IBS isn't flaring up anymore, but the number on the scale isn't moving. Right. Like their nervous system is being revved every time they step on the scale because that's where they're laser focused.
Yeah. Yeah. And it drives so much like, I mean, so many of us are moving through life stuck in a chronic state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fight is like, you're just like, you're always out there and it's like the extra and you try to control everything. That's how fight energy can show up in the body. Okay. Flight is like you can't even stay in it. You're constantly moving on to the next and you live in a perpetual state of anxiety. Like you live with your shoulders in your ears. Okay. Freeze, analysis paralysis. Like it's just 2 minutes, too overwhelmed. I can't do anything. I just can't do anything. And then fawn is instead of focusing on what you can be doing for yourself, you go do it for everyone else. And then we have fracture, which is, and I've done podcasts with incredible psychotherapists and different authors on these topics as well too. But the fracture is like we continually fracture ourselves from ourselves because we don't trust. We keep hearing these things like women's bodies are broken. You've ruined your metabolism. This is just the hand of cards that you were dealt. This is what it is to be a woman. And we start to take these sayings on as our personal belief. And we imprint this story in our body when that is not true. None of those things are true. And it definitely doesn't have to be true for you. And so part of unpacking this for women is like, what is the origin of all the stories you believe to be true about your health and body as a woman? What did you grow up witnessing with other women in their life? Like I can remember, I mean, in our house, like my parents were always either on like a soup diet, iceberg lettuce with cottage cheese and salt and pepper, the Pritikin diet, the Atkins diet, that like whatever the thing was. And then I also remember growing up in gyms and when I was teaching and I would go in the change room after and all the women just ripping their bodies a new one at like, this roll and this skin and I was like, oh my God. And it actually, I can vividly remember being a teenager and being in the change room of one gym specifically. And I felt like I was being punched by the way they were talking to themselves. And I left there and I remember I came home and I said to my older sister, who's 12 years older, I was like, is this normal? Like, do you talk to your body this way? Do you and your friends talk to your body this way? I'm like, and it left such an imprint on me that we are walking around with a lot of beliefs that aren't ours. And most women, the original fracture is a moment in time when someone said something about their body, meaning you heard someone say it about theirs, or someone made a comment to you about yours. And that is something that you have held on to. And part of getting these sustainable results and really embodying a healthy body is also trying to break free from all of those beliefs as well.
Yeah, like unpacking where your beliefs around health and wellness have come from. How do you
Yeah.
feel that you escaped that? Like how, like, because I feel like so many people who experience that, like their parents on every different diet and having limiting beliefs about their body and their image, it just imprints onto the child. And then the child carries that. And then by the time, you know, puberty hits or whatever, whenever the weight gain happens.
For me, it was, I mean, we always had open conversations in the house. And like, I can always remember my dad saying, like, my dad was an athlete. And then my dad, like my parents were very social. And so my dad would say, like, I'm gonna try and eat healthy and exercise better so I can still live my social life, which meant still drink and like go out and eat the dinners and do all of that. And for me, being in a gym environment was good because I started to stack up evidence that the opposite could be true. I was witnessing people every day who weren't doing these drastic diets, who were actually strong, who felt really good. So I saw my parents doing it, but then and my parents still had really good habits. They made everything from scratch. So it wasn't like, they just didn't know how to manage their weight, right? And then I saw these other people who were doing both of it. And I was like, oh, like two truths can be held at the same time. And then when I was away at school, my mom was actually diagnosed with type 1.5 diabetes and an underactive thyroid. And type 1.5 diabetes is where the pancreas and the beta cells haven't fully shut down their ability to do their job. It was like adult onset, but my mom needed to have like infant amounts of insulin to help to support her body. And I remember my mom saying, like, I know I did this to myself. And this is exactly what she said. I've had low blood sugar for years. I was always chasing my next high. I woke up in the morning and my mom didn't drink coffee, but it was tea to get lunches ready for all three of us. Didn't eat until she had to, where she felt like she was going to pass out. And then she was like, I've got to stop and make time. She was working full time, made all of us our lunches every day, got home from work, made everyone dinner, and would inhale a brick of cheese while she was making dinner and drink a glass of wine to relax. She was always the one who ate last once everyone else was served. And then at night, she would snack. And this was her cycle over and over and over again. Um, and she wasn't paying attention to the signs and the symptoms. And, and then that takes a kicker on the thyroid because anything we're going through on a nervous system level, major stress, this is your adrenals. And your adrenals and your thyroid work in tandem. Like you cannot have an adrenal issue without the thyroid being in a suboptimal state of health. And you cannot have a thyroid issue without the adrenals probably having been where the symptoms started to show up first. And so, I witnessed this, but I also was in other environments where I was seeing that this doesn't actually have to be the way. And so I encourage women that if you are in an environment right now, or you were in an environment where you believed one thing, you have to go put yourself in new communities, in other rooms, allow yourself to be educated differently so that you can break free of that hold of what you think it is to be true for you.
Yeah. Your mom's story sounds a lot like a lot of women who are coming to me, right? They're just so busy. They're so busy. They're doing all the things, putting everyone before themselves. And I don't know if this is true for your mom, but for a lot of people, they are putting themselves last in the day in terms of like when to eat, like she would eat when she absolutely needed to. And maybe there was a limiting belief in her head, like if I just go longer without food, I'll just eat less overall, right?
I don't think that was my mom's case because my mom wasn't somebody that was ever really preoccupied with like I have to be a certain size. In my mom's case, it was really truly like my mom lived life through a lens of servitude. Take care of others. Like that's my mom was the oldest of six. She was pulled out of high school in grade 10 to raise her brothers and sisters when my nana had yet again another nervous breakdown. For my mom, it was more about this is my role in the family
Mm-hmm.
and I have to fulfill that role.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of self-sacrifice. Now, my mom also had endometriosis that was diagnosed late, as it is for most women. It's about an 8 to 10 year journey to get properly diagnosed. And my mom was in her early 40s when they did a radical hysterectomy, and she was immediately put into menopause overnight. So there was a lot of things that happened. Early menopause, not supported well. My mom was one of the women during the Women's Health Initiative study that came out where my mom was on hormone replacement therapy and then they ripped her off of it overnight because they were like, you cannot take this. It's going to cause cancer and cause blood clots. Was given no recourse. So she suffered so bad for years. Then you have the thyroid issue and the type 1.5 diabetes. Like, and now my mom is 80 years old and my mom could teach about diabetes. She really took her health into her own hands. And all these little things, these were creating imprints for me to learn and understand. And there's lots of reasons why I do what I do for a living. That's just like one tiny little snippet, but I was always paying attention and witnessing other women's lived experiences and their stories. And I can remember, because my oldest sister is 12 years older than me, I mean, she was 16 when I was 4. So I was being exposed to a lot of conversations in the house. By the time I was like 10 and changes were starting to happen in my body, well, my sister was 22. I was like, I know what's going to happen. I was the girl who had the little panty liner, little kit and caboodle in her bag. I was the one talking to all my girlfriends at 12 and 13 about our periods and what was going to happen. I was the one in high school talking about birth control because I read Taking Charge of Your Fertility when I was a teenager.
Wow.
I'm also adopted, and my mom was 15 years old when she had me. I grew up with this story knowing all the time. I knew what could happen. I knew that if more women knew about their bodies at a younger age, we could help to educate, prevent, empower. So this is why I am here. And raising a daughter and a son who are now 17 and 19, my son knows just as much about periods and like he wants to unknow what he knows. He's like, take it out, take it out. And my daughter, I hear educate her friends when they're coming and talking to her about IUDs and the pill and pain and all of these things going on. And so we are the most powerful as women, and we have been given the gift of these hormones as a superpower, a period as a superpower. But we have been taught that this is shitty and that it sucks to be a woman. And then we have to go through all of this stuff. And I'm like, if we could teach women the opposite of that and understand, you have the most powerful tools in the toolkit of the human body ever. And you get a monthly report card, actually a daily report card if you choose to pay attention. And that's going to inform everything from how you're feeling mentally and emotionally, how you develop and strengthen your body, what your composition is, your relationship to food, how you relate to life and to people in general. And it is going to set you up for a strong perimenopause that feels good and a post-menopause experience where you go, I am fully stepping into the wise woman that I have been growing into this whole time. And that's my whole mission, is to get women to embrace that and stop feeding into this idea that it sucks to be a woman and it sucks to have a period and it sucks to go through perimenopause. These are all privileges we get to go through. They may not feel awesome in the moment, but I can guarantee you if it doesn't feel good, it's because you don't know enough yet and you aren't working with the right people.
Oh, that's so well said. And I feel like you hear it a lot from women post-menopause that are like, appreciate your period while you have it.
Yes.
Right? Where we spend our whole lives trying to be like, oh, stupid period, or we go on birth control just to, I speak to women who just are like, I haven't bled in years because I'm on this, birth control that keeps my cycle from flowing. And I'm just like, it's such a disservice to our bodies.
And it's tricky because unfortunately, Western medicine and the conventional way of supporting women, whether it's your family doctor, even your obstetrician and endocrinologist, when you go to them, they've been trained with a, 3-prong approach, which is if a woman goes in and has any type of menstrual irregularity, pain, inflammation, discomfort, your first option is a synthetic birth control, which is either going to be one of the pills or a form of an IUD. Some that have hormones, some that don't. Could be copper-based. The second is that if you have the woman who goes in lots of pain, heavy periods, like she's like, I'm hemorrhaging, she's going to be offered a cervical ablation where they go in and they laser, they burn off the thickened endometrial lining to decrease the flow. And some women will never get a period back, or if they do, it's quite scant. Mm-hmm. And then the third option is a woman's being talked to about, like, let's remove the uterus. It's fewer and far between now that it's just a radical hysterectomy right out of the gates. But it could be partial. So the uterus is taken, but the ovaries and the fallopian tubes are left, which is a better situation for women because the ovaries are the main event. Like the ovaries we need the health of those babies for as long as possible. And then you do have some women where the ovaries are removed and everything is taken, but there's not enough preventative education. Mm-hmm. Have a woman who is coming to you who is explaining all the inflammatory symptoms physically, the PMS or PMDD, so the mental emotional connection to what's going on. When a woman comes into our programs or works with any of us in our practice, we don't look at this as like, oh my God, we have to get in there and like get rid of this right away. Mm-hmm. We look at this as we have incredible opportunity in front of us. Mm-hmm. What do we need to do to reduce the amount of cytokines and prostaglandins in this woman's body that is making everything so inflammatory? Because that does not just happen. That does not just happen. Even if you have a genetic predisposition to endometriosis, adenomyosis, you have a family history of different things, we take that into account, but that does not mean that has to be your full genetic expression. And so if anybody is listening who's just been, suffering in this way, I encourage you to reach out and start to build your team. Work with a pelvic floor physiotherapist to understand your personal landscape. Work with either a naturopath or a functional health practitioner. Work with somebody who really understands this. And then also understand that this is a collaborative relationship. They are not going to fix you. They cannot. They're going to guide you and mentor you, and you're going to do this with them months over months over months. This is not going to happen in one session or 30 days.
Yeah, I offer 3 and 6 month packages for my coaching, and like 12 weeks just flies by.
Oh my gosh. You're like, we're just getting started.
We're just getting started. Yeah. And it's with the physical symptoms, I find, especially if someone's trying to get off of birth control or do anything like that. But I find what takes even more time is overcoming the self, the mind.
Oh my God, that's years. That's years. Like, and it's important to acknowledge this. Listen, I do what I do for a living and have for a long time. I still have limiting beliefs and things that I am working through because I'm a human. Mm-hmm. And I'm living in this world that we're in right now. And I'm going through it like anyone else is, but I have better tools. And this is the whole thing, is we're not trying to be perfect. We are simply trying to build better tools so that when something in this house, which is the only house you're going to live in for your whole life, starts to need some level of TLC or repair, you're like, I have a tool for that. Mm-hmm. I know a trade who I can go to who can help me with that. You don't go, oh shit, we got to knock the whole house down and start over again. No, that's not what you have to do. You have to tap into the tools.
Yeah. So my tools are fitness, nutrition, mindset, and sleep. Would you add anything to that? What would you, if you were to, give women a little package of like, here's are the things that you need to master in order to get your health in check?
Well, all of those are fantastic. They're in the basement of the house that we're building. Yeah. The thing that I think is most important for women is you need to build in unwavering trust in your body, and you have to believe her the first time she talks to you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are not trusting, right?
No, because we've been taught not to. You feel something, because we've just been taught, go to the doctor, go to someone else, and they'll tell you what's going on. And listen, I'm not saying don't go and go to the doctor, go and work with people. What I'm saying is like, just press pause for a moment and ask yourself, why aren't you feeling well? Why is your digestion off? Why aren't you sleeping? Why are you emotional? Why can't you calm your nervous system down? You know these answers better than anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a balance between getting the support that you need, but still not outsourcing your power to
Yeah.
know if,
Work with people who are going to be as invested in teaching you as they are in working with you. Like I don't want to work with someone who's only going to tell me. I'm like, can you teach me and tell me? Can you explain to me why this could be going on? And then can you explain to me why you're recommending that this is the thing that I do? I want to know and understand.
yeah, well said. Okay. So if someone wants to learn more about you and what you do, or potentially work with you or join any of your programs, how do we find you?
The best place is on Instagram. It's where I spend the most time. So it's my name, Jenn Pike. It's spelled with two N's. I have a podcast, The Simplicity Sessions, with loads of episodes about things like we've just talked about. And then my website, jenpike.com.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I definitely learned a lot, and I think that this will speak to um, many of my clients as well. So I really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks again.
Thanks for having me.